Alright, so today we're going to do something a little bit different, so I might be not quite as eloquent in my speaking today. So we're going to actually cover basic integration. So this is going to be a lot less of me reading my thoughts off to you and a lot more of me showing you actual work in Unreal Engine. So for today, we're going to go over basic Athena AI controller setup. We're going to go into some considerations. I'm going to do a brief overview of AI perception and how you integrate that. I'm going to show you how to set up your AI preset and then also the basic curve table, but I'm not going to do any curve creation for today. So just real quick, before we get into that, I want to just talk about the documentation. The Athena AI documentation is absolutely fantastic. You've got like 65 pages of information here that really just answers the vast majority of questions that you could have. Between this and the sample projects, it's really pretty straightforward. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump on over to Unreal Engine and get to work. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to create a new blueprint class. And here you're going to go down to all classes and we're going to search for Athena. I guess you don't have to do that. You can also just look for the AI controller. So we're going to name this BP underscore Athena AI underscore test. And we're going to go ahead and open that up. So we're going to go into the event graph and you'll see we have event begin play, event tick. We're going to come up here to functions overrideable and we're going to come over to on possess. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the possessed pawn and we're going to cast this guy to whatever your character class is. So for me, I'm going to cast a parent soldier. This is my class that I use for it's my parent class for all of my AI character, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to compile real quick. That works out well. And then you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to be flipping back and forth between my configured controller and this one just to make sure I get everything correct. Alright, so we're going to do a quick self-reference. And then we're going to do attach actor to actor. Why is this not working with me today? We're going to go ahead and promote this to a variable real quick. There we go. Attach actor to actor. And we're just going to flip these around real quick. So the parent actor we want to be the class or the pawn that we are possessing, and then the self reference is going to be our target so that we're attaching this controller to our controlled pawn. We don't care about the socket name or any of this stuff because this is really just a data entity more than anything else. So then we're going to come back up here and under components, we're going to add an Athena AI component because remember this is really the most important class with Athena AI because this handles our data preset, all that information. So first thing I like to do is do a valid check. So we want to make sure that this object is valid before we start referencing it because we don't want to cause any unnecessary memory crashes. And then from here, we're going to do a get AI, if I could spell correctly, get data manager. We're going to promote this up to a variable so that we have easy access to it. And we'll call this guy Athena AI Data Manager. Do a quick compile, and we're good to go. So just to review real quick, essentially what we're doing is once the possession event happens, that's when the AI controller is actually taking over a pawn. We're going to take the possessed pawn, we're going to cast it to whatever class we want it to be. That's so that we can access any member variables, member functions, etc. later. So that's really important for when we're trying to set up considerations. We're going to promote that possessed pawn, the cast possessed pawn, to whatever that, we're going to set that as a variable. We're going to attach the controller to the pawn, and then we're going to come back over here. We're going to make sure that the Athena AI component is valid, And then we're going to get the data manager from it, and we're going to promote that to a variable. All right, so that's just the very simple basics of what we're doing. Let me see. Okay, so this ended up getting quite lengthy, so I ended up just breaking this down into a independent function so that it doesn't take up so much space on the AI controller blueprint. So essentially, on begin play, I ended up having to come up with an inelegant solution of adding a delay of 3 seconds. So essentially, this just makes sure that all of our variables and information related to that possessed pawn are initialized. Otherwise, you're going to start getting problems with accessing null reference or null pointers and all that kind of stuff. So we definitely want to avoid that. So coming back over here, we're going to bring event play back in. And I played around with this and found 3 seconds to be a reasonable amount of time. There is also another way to do this using a check on once the character is initialized. If anybody comes up with the method to do that and feels like sending me a message with it, please feel free. Because I ended up just sticking with the delay because I don't mind if I have a delay for 3 seconds at the beginning. Okay, so we're going to get the Athena AI data manager. And if you check here, if you remember, I did a validated or did an isValid node. So we're going to make sure that's valid. And then I passed that in. Well, I didn't pass that in. Okay, so we made sure that's valid, and then we come in here. So I've got this massive sequence node, and then I go through getting all of these different considerations. So I will run through that real quick. So off the Athena AI data manager, we're going to do set consideration defaults. So this pops up with a float. So at this point, you kind of have the freedom to do this however you want. So for me, I store all of my stuff in my combat information component. So I need to come back to my parent soldier class and pull off the combat information component. Then I need to get my current health. That's going to be the initial value. Then I need to get max health. And that's going to be my max value. And obviously the minimum value is going to be 0 for health. So what's the next one we could get? We can do, we'll look at suppression. Oh, I skipped a step here. So the consideration tag. So as you remember, everything that is a consideration is going to have the Athena AI dot considerations dot, shoot, I forgot the name of the tag. One moment. So we're going to go check out the documentation real quick. Considerations. All right, we're going to go back up to the top. Even now, I still use the documentation, so don't be afraid to reference this. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I had it right. So it was Athena AI dot considerations dot the name of the tag. So I'm not gonna like actually create a new one because I don't need a new one personally, but I will show you what you do. So you come in here under name, you would do Athena AI dot considerations dot new name, new tag. Then you come into source, you select default gameplay tags dot ini, and then you would click add new tag. So again, I don't need to do that. So for this one is health. So I check the health box since we have that tag. And now we can also reference this by the Athena AI.considerations.health tag when needed. All right, so we're going to come back over here and we're going to get the Athena AI data manager again. Then we're going to set consideration defaults. We're going to take that combat information component again. And we're going to get suppression, and we're going to get max suppression. And of course, we don't want to leave sloppy work here, so make sure you clean your blueprints up. Okay, so I mean, really, that's the basics of what you need to do in order to initialize the Athena AI system. At this point, you've got you've got two considerations that we've added. So if we wanted to, we could go ahead and add this to a pawn. So I'm not going to create a new pawn right now. I'm just going to show you the fastest way to do this. So I'm going to come over to my BP underscore AI parent. On the root node for BP underscore AI parent, with that selected, I'm going to come up to details. I'm going to do a quick search. We see AI controller class. So we want to come in here, and I use BP Athena controller, because that's the one that I actually use for development. And then there's BP Athena AI test, so that would be the one that we want to select. Now, so this is under the pawn category, so we want to scroll down here until we find that category. Actually, we can just type in here. There's a really important thing to note here. So under the pawn section, where it says auto possess AI, it defaults to placed in world. So depending on how you set up your AI spawning, this might save you a little bit of time. You're going to want to select either placed in world, spawned, or placed in world or spawned. So for me, I have AI that are dragged into the world in the editor, so they're there when the game first starts. But there's also AI that I spawn in later using like a wave spawner type mechanic. So if you don't have this set up correctly, your AI will never get possessed by the pawn, and this can cost you a little bit of time setting up. So I'm just going to undo this real quick, but just because I don't need this set up on here. Okay, so next up on the docket is I told you I would talk about AI perception real quick. So we're going to come up to the components tab. We're going to add AI perception. If you select that and then come down to the bottom right, there is several events that we can choose from here. So the first one we're going to add is on perception updated. So this gives us an array of updated actors. So essentially every time that an actor walks into the sightline of your AI, it's going to add to this array here of updated actors. Speaking of, I guess I should show you how to actually set up the senses. So we're going to come over here under AI perception. We're going to go to senses config. We're going to click the little plus button to add an element. And then for the first index, we're going to do AI sight. We're going to drop that down. We're going to do some basic configuration here. So peripheral vision half angle is the first thing we're going to set up. So remember that that's the half angle. So if we set 30 degrees, then there's going to be, if you imagine like a center line coming out from the nose of your character, there's going to be 30 degrees to the right of that and 30 degrees to the left of that. Max age, I like to set like 3 seconds, something like that. You can experiment with that and set it however you want. Point of view backward offset is something that is essentially it's a rearwards offset. So if you think about it as originally if 0 would be at the nose, then minus 10 centimeters might be towards the back of the head. And essentially the point of this is just to make it so that the character has something of peripheral vision on objects or actors that are right next to them. Okay, so that's configured. You can change the sight radius to be whatever you want. I think that's all the important information we need from right there. So I'm going to pop back over to my original real quick and check out what I do here. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a for each loop. So remember, for each just lets us iterate through every single index in an array. We're going to get the actor's perception. So if we hover over this node here, it says retrieves whatever has been sensed about a given actor. Target is AI perception component. So we're going to take this, we're going to break the result of that. We're going to break that struct. And then okay, we're gonna, yes, okay. So we want to promote this guy to a variable. Target's fine. I like to set it as other sensed bot, just because it makes a little more sense to me that way. And then we're going to do another for each loop. And all that this does is this lets us check to see what senses it was perceived with. So we come through, we're going to promote this to a variable, actor sensed stimuli. So essentially this basically just tells us what we sensed that actor with. And then we're going to come over here. We're going to do get sense class for stimulus. And then we're going to check what this is equal to. Do a quick search for AI sense underscore site. Then we're going to do a branch node. So essentially what we're doing here is we're checking to see if this, if the actor was perceived with sight or not. So it was sight. So I'm going to come through here, and then this is where my custom information comes into play. So there's a lot of different things you can do at this point, but I don't think I'm going to walk through that for this video because that's a little bit outside the scope of what I wanted to do. But at this point, you can say, okay, I've seen a bot. What do I want to do with it? So for me, just a quick example, I can, let's see, can I get his health? No, I can't. That's okay. You could cast this to whatever class your enemies might be. You could, if you've got interfaces set up, you could check to see if he's got a certain interface implemented. There's a lot of different options of what you could do here. But that's not really the purpose of what I want to do, so we're going to move on from that. So we're going to come back to our base folder here. So you see I've got BP, Athena AI, test. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a data asset. If I can remember where that lives. And this one is going to be an Athena AI agent preset. It's the very top option for me. So I like to use DA. I like to take the class name, just abbreviate it real quick at the beginning so I know what it is. Athena preset underscore test. And we're going to open this guy up. So there's a lot of different things that you'll see in here. So we've got the name of it. That's obviously the name of the preset. We've got options for tasks in here. We've got a fallback task. We've got services, consideration tags, consideration curve table. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the considerations curve table, because that's just another quick asset we need to make. So we're going to right click down here, go into miscellaneous. We're going to create a curve table. Now you do need to make sure this is cubic. That's just the required setting for this. Otherwise your curve table won't work properly. So we'll do CT underscore Athena, if I could spell, underscore test. So then when you come in here, there's absolutely nothing because we have to come here, considerations curve table. We need to set that to CT underscore Athena underscore test. So now at this point, if we want to add some tasks here, we can add, I'm going to add my hold task because basically that does nothing. It tells the AI to stand exactly where they are and do nothing. So what I need to do is open up that task. I'm going to expand and I'm going to add some considerations to it. First off, I do need to add some consideration tags. I don't have a tag for this one for some reason, but we're going to just set it to fire weapon. That's fine. So the actual important part here is what considerations do we want to pick for this task? So that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit more in an upcoming video. But for right now, we're just going to pick health. So at this point, if you click generate consideration curves, nothing will happen because this is still open. But now if I do it, we'll come back in here. That's the wrong curve table. Come back in here, and now we have a curve for fire weapon health. So if you watch my consideration curves video, I've give you some thoughts on how you can configure this for various behavior, but that's outside of the scope of what we're going to cover right now. I'm also not going to talk too much more about tasks right now because, again, I want to just cover basic setup. If you want to fool around with that, you're more than welcome to. I think at this point I've covered the gist of what I want to. So just a quick review. Again, we're going to go through on event possess. We just we look at the possessed pawn that's passed in. We're going to cast that to whatever class we want, promote that to a variable so that we can access it later. At that point, from that point, we make sure that the controller is attached to the pawn, and then we're going to make sure that the we're going to make sure that the Athena AI component is initialized. We're going to get the data manager and promote that to a variable. Then we come in here, we make sure that our Athena AI data manager variable is valid. Then we actually go in and start setting some consideration defaults real quick. I did actually get a question on this earlier, so I just wanted to reiterate. You can use not set consideration defaults, but you can use set consideration value here. So anytime you want to update this, so like let's say I get some new value for suppression through some other means. I do all that in C++, so I'm not going to cover that here, but basically we would just plug this suppression in here. We'd set up our consideration tag for suppression, and then this is updated. So there's one more option here for calculate score. Basically what this means is this forces task scoring to happen once we've updated this consideration. So there's multiple reasons why you may or may not want to do that. Basically you just don't want to do this every single time. So let me give you a better example over here. So if we go to my update Athena considerations, if I check that box every single time that I were to update this, it would force scoring to happen on every single one of these considerations. So because this is an initial score, we don't want to do that. That wouldn't make sense. It's not CPU friendly because you have to multiply this times however many bots are being used here. So we definitely don't want to do that. There's times you might want to just passively update a consideration, or there's times you may not. It's really just up to the architecture of what you're thinking. Okay, well, I think that'll do it for today. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. Thanks.